Hi everyone, I'm Scott Schneider. This is Stereo Niche. This week, going back and taking a look at some Sansui separates from the mid-80s. Stick around. Alright, so this week I thought I would bring out a set of Sansui separates from the mid-80s. Now, interesting time frame. Let's sort of, set the stage here a little bit for what was going on in the mid-80s. So these came out in around 85 or so. CD has been out a few years. VCR has been out a few years. So manufacturers are starting to, respond, to those new things that people want to do with their stereos. And the other thing is digital meters have come into play as well. So that's sort of where the 80s are now. The analog meters they're very 70s, I guess, for the most part, and everything from that era. And this is when I, started coming into my ability to buy my own gear as well. And everything was digital interface. That was, the age of the 80s. And so this is a series, as you can tell from Sansui, they were into the black face. Now, one thing I did note from Sansui of this era, decided to set themselves apart a little bit in a sea of blackface. They had some tweaks here on some of their items. They had some red accents, on some of the black knobs and things like that, to try to differentiate themselves without, I think, being, too tacky. So this is the high-end separates that they had at the time. There were basically two series to this. They had a series for the preamp and then the amplifier. This is the lower of the two, but still with nice specs. So this is the preamp, which they like to call the stereo control amplifier, the C2101, and pretty full featured, so that's one thing that we'll see here. Lots of features, because as those features came out in the 70s, they may have been premium, but by the 80s, they sort of became the norm and were offered. One of the things that you'll see here are the number of inputs, the sheer number here. After they've got two phonos, they had input for a CD, a tuner, two extra ones for just line inputs, and then 3 tape decks. So this thing was just absolutely loaded. They did also denote here, by the way, with video becoming even more popular in the family entertainment, so they were responding to what consumers were, looking for. The other side of it here, lots of good connectivity and functions around phono. This was sort of the peak. I don't think phono hadn't started waning yet. Although the CD had come in, lots of people, were still had their phonographs, had their record collections, and so phono was still very much a big deal. And they incorporated a lot of functionality with the ability to, have different cartridges, or MM and MC cartridges as well. Now, they had a matching amp, the B2101, and what an amp it is. Even though this is the lower end, it's still a very nice, very powerful amp. It's got those digital meters to sort of set it off as, cool 80s style. But this thing puts out 200 watts RMS. That's, pretty far up there. It's no longer in the hundreds, of watts. Now we're 200 watts. So quite powerful for the low-end model. The other thing here is not only is it stable down to 4 ohms, this thing's also stable down to 2 ohms. Now, it's mainly talking about dynamic power here, but still, they're talking about 2 ohm loads here in their advertising and marketing. So taking a step up, looking at the next level up, which I don't have the models here, but I do have this in the brochure, and I thought I would show this. The C2301 was a little bit more of a premium model. As you can see, carried over from what was very common in the 70s and prior, has wood panels on the side. So, a little bit of a luxury feature that it added. And Something that we don't talk about often or haven't is the additional inputs here, or in this case, outputs. These, what they call Canon or XLR outputs, these balanced outputs. There's a lot of terms you can use to call them, but that was an added premium bonus here into your regular RCA outputs. So this was a step up from, you know, just basic RCA outputs here. Now looking at the amplifier, the B2101, you know, it's obviously looking a bit more substantial there. It's pretty big meters, just a bigger overall presence here. I don't know the weight offhand, but obviously bigger. Comes with those side wood panels to match the preamp. 300 watts now. You know, the prior one, the lower end model was 200 watts. This one, 300 watts. So, you know, quite the beast. Obviously, it needed the XLR or Canon inputs here to match with the preamp. So those had to be on here so you could connect the two. So, you know, lots of cool features that were on these. And, you know, I think they, similar to how cars, you know, you have, starts out with the luxury cars and then those features start filtering down. But some of these features, you know, like the MC cartridges and things like that, these were common at the end of the 70s and then started gaining traction as more models came out. It sort of become more standard because even lower end Sansui offerings, you know, had that capability. What you're getting here is more power, better quality power on top of that, lower, you know, distortion metrics and things like that. So, you know, a step up, you know, on the quality side of things. But pretty cool. This, I do have the tuner. I don't plan on talking much about the tuner, but I did want to put it here. I did have it as well. So I'm going to now give you some close-up shots so that you see what it looks like, and then we'll come back and talk about those features.
Thirsty
All right, kind of cool. You know, it does have that 80s look, but you know, not in a cheap sort of way. But I'm sure once you got a look, you got to see, you know, all the different tweaking here and all the connectivity and features that you have. So let's walk through that and, you know, see how it comes out on the rating scale. So starting off, again, just to review, this is the C2101 and the B2101. They were manufactured around 85 to 86, may have been in 84, but I'm sure 85, 86. Retailed for $700 for the preamp and $800 for the amp. So looking at the power side of things, I mentioned this already, but 200 watts of power. So, you know, pretty much can run really just about anything, really, except for the very most extremely taxing speakers. This can pretty much run pretty much anything you'll throw at it. It can also handle 4 ohm speakers, and it has even a 2 ohm spec, so quite impressive. Moving on, I mentioned this before, but it has 2 phonos, but in addition to that, it also handles MC cartridges, so that additional functionality is fantastic. Moving on into inputs, I think this is a record. Of all the things I've reviewed so far, I think this pretty much has the most inputs possible at 7 different inputs. So, you know, quite substantial there. That's quite a number of inputs. Has the balance, has a volume mute and loudness controls, which is, you know, pretty common. But the one thing that isn't always common is the volume mute. So it's nice to have that, which is, you know, kind of an uncommon feature. Looking at tone controls, this has that, you know, parametric EQ. So that gives you a lot of control that you don't normally get. And so I ended up giving it rating for the bass, the mid, and the treble, but it also has a tone defeat switch, so you can turn all that and go around it if you like. Has a high-low filter. Obviously it has power meters, you can't miss those. And being separates, it does have the pre-out amp in. I have to give it points to sort of keep everything level. On the AC connectivity, it has 1 switched, 3 unswitched. And then for speaker connections, it has 2 sets of speakers. Now add all that up, comes to 310 points. That is the first thing I've rated so far that breaks the 300 point mark. And I actually, when I started putting the point system together, I didn't think anything would actually break 300 points. So this pretty much knocks it out of the park. If this were the upgraded set with the wood paneling and things, it would probably get a few more points. So pretty amazing. Again, they've thrown the kitchen sink at this and has just about every feature possible, you know, in that time frame, and would be easily to incorporate pretty much anything you'd want to do today. So pretty impressive stuff here. Feature rich, but has also the quality behind it as well. I had reviewed a lower end set of Sansui from earlier 80s before, but they were a lower end model. Had a lot of features, but didn't have the quality to go along with it. This does, and pretty cool set here. I think it doesn't have, you know, it doesn't have that nostalgia that the 70s have, that has all the collectability around it currently. But if you start to move into the 80s and want to look at some of that gear, there's some fantastic units out there. Quality, you know, wasn't just thrown by the wayside. This is an example where it's 80s gear, but the quality is still there as well. So that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys have and your experience with some of this gear of that era, and let me know your comments. Love to hear them. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You don't want to miss that next video. Hit subscribe. Do it now so you don't forget. We'll see you next time.